I'm so excited to be back for another week of Your Brand Amplified. I am your host, Annika Jackson, and I am here with Bharat Kanodia, who will be speaking about a topic that's very relevant to the audience and the listeners of our program, but something we haven't talked about before, which is valuation and what it's worth. What is your business worth and how do you get there? And why is it important? Bharat, welcome to our show today.
Annika, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy Friday. I am so excited to have you on. As I said, I have worked with a lot of startups on the PR side to try to help them to get press, to get in front of potential investors in a different way. And so what you do is something that I think is really important for them to understand. And I'd love for you to first talk about who you are and how you got on this journey. And have you always been passionate about valuation?
I don't know if I've been passionate about it, but it helps when you're passionate about it. Valuation was my first job out of college, and turned out I was half good at it, and I stuck with it. So I've been in valuation all my career, and I've done all kinds of interesting, unique, or weird things in valuations. So it's been a great journey.
Well, you have quite the resume. You have worked on valuing Uber, Airbnb, DoorDash, GE, Tesla, assets like the Golden Gate Bridge, airports, things that I think the everyday layperson wouldn't think of in these terms. So will you please explain a little bit about the process of valuation and what are some of the things that you do? And I'd love to hear about some of the more unique things that you have valued and how those came about.
The process, frankly, is fairly straightforward. So irrespective of the asset that I'm appraising, right? It could be a bridge or an airport or a company or a startup. And the reason I have been successful at valuing all kinds of unique or interesting or mainstream things is because I never take my eyes off the ball. I always follow the fundamentals. And if you follow the fundamentals, you can't go wrong. The problem is now with social media and internet and clickbaitish titles, people lose sight of what's important just because they want to have a clickbaitish title. I mean, you see it all the time. Gary V and all these guys, these are clickbaitish type of guys, they come up with things. One day he's saying college is awesome. One day he's saying college is bad. It's like, I laugh at people who frankly follow Gary V. I'm like, dude, you're a bigger idiot to follow him. You're not a Gary V fan, are you?
I don't follow him.
Okay, good. Otherwise, we have to conclude this right now. So anyway, the fundamentals are three. Anything is worth anything if it's giving you cash flow over a period of time, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever cash flow it's giving you. And you take that cash flow and you present value it to today, and that's one value. The second way to value anything is say, hey, my neighbor's house was just sold for $100. So my house is worth $100. Presume it's a comparable house. And third way to value anything, hey, is what will it take for me to rebuild my house from the ground up today? It will cost $100, $70, $80, and that's one value. So as long as I keep my focus on these three methods, right? These three methods are sort of like the primary colors, right? All other methods, which there are, right? Many other methods, but all other methods are a derivative of one of these methods or a combination of these three methods. And when people say, no, there's a 15th method. Oh, no, there's a 31st method that I have come up with. They've just sort of, come up with some kind of a combination of one of these three methods. They haven't invented anything. So focus on the primary colors and you will never go wrong. And that's why I've been able to appraise all kinds of unique and weird shit.
Yeah. So when you're doing this and you have these, so you come up with these numbers and they are probably not the same number all the time? Or are they ever the same number?
It's never the same number.
Okay.
If it is the same number,
Something.
you ought to be questioning things.
Oh, no.
Like, okay, what did I do wrong here? It's never the same number.
And so
it's kind of like if somebody's too nice to you, you're like, what's wrong? What do you want?
yeah. What's the ulterior motive behind it? So, okay, so you come up with these 3 numbers to benchmark, and then what happens next? And I'm a layperson when it comes to this. I haven't ever been on this side of the equation. I think I told you I've worked with startups on helping them position themselves in the media, right? But when it comes to the work that you do, it's completely foreign to me.
Well, it's funny because as a outsider, the question that you asked is really the $1 million question. And that is the Achilles heel of valuation. That, okay, you use these 3 methods and you have 3 data points. Now, how do you align these data points if they're different or if they're pretty close? And that is really, when they say valuation is the art and science. So the science piece is coming up with those 3 data points. The art piece is trying to understand the relationships between these 3 data points and how they align with each other. And, what's the right answer? When you take an average, let me just tell you that average is almost never the right answer.
Okay.
So never take an average, right? People will say, just take an average. I mean, okay, so one gives me value of $1, another gives me a value of $1 billion. So what am I supposed to take an average? What, let's call it $500 million. Everybody go home. No, it don't work like that.
Wow.
So it always comes down to that, hey, while you're working on these 3 methods, the exercise will help you understand the pros and cons of each method, right? Pertaining to that particular asset, right? And that's the research that's going to help you align the 3 values that, hey, should I be more skewed towards the income method or should I be more skewed towards the cost method? Because you've done your research when you've come up with those answers and you know what's good, bad, and ugly about each method. At least if you've done your job right, you would.
So, okay, so you figure out which way you kind of want to steer the ship towards, which valuation. And is most of the work that you do when somebody's in, I mean, I guess you would work probably looking at the diverse things that you work on at all phases. So a company that's really a beginning startup trying to figure out if they can even start going to Series A, or, if they're going to start down that road, somebody in the middle. What are some of the things that you look for, or the kind of companies that you usually work with? Is it in that like wide range of, very initial startup that has a good buzz and is promising, hopefully not the clickbait buzz, but just actually genuine product buzz, to things that are, a few years in maturity and, have a proven track record?
So there's a saying, don't judge a man by the answers, but by the questions he asks. And as a outsider, you are asking pretty good questions.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And as a PR person, that actually is a pretty good quality, because most PR people are more into sales, and people think sales is about talking. It's less about talking, it's more about asking questions. So kudos to you for asking the right question. So when you are talking about startups, right? Valuations are most crucial for startups. And the reason for that is they almost never have a profit. There's no cash flow to value.
Right.
And they're lucky if they have a product or revenue. It might be 2 guys working out of a garage and hustling and saying, oh, we're going to be, a $1 billion company tomorrow. But they got nothing today.
Yeah.
So what am I valuing? A pie in the sky, something they're promising, right? I'm not saying that it's not worth anything, but it is very difficult to opine on that pie in the sky. So, and yet, even though they don't have any profit, product, or revenue, startup founders, they need to attract investors, customers, and employees.
Yeah.
And how would they do that when they don't have any money, they don't have any product, they don't have any profit? They do that by telling people this pie in the sky currency called valuations.
Okay.
That, ooh, we have zero revenue, we have zero profit, but we're worth $100 million. Come work for us. Okay. And people don't know any better. People are stupid. People believe the headlines people like you write. Right? I mean, that's why you have a job, right?
Mhm.
Let's face it. Look, you want to talk to me, let's be candid. I'm not trying to, insult anybody. I'm just saying that's the way it is, right? And who's coming up with those numbers? Schmucks like me, right? So you have these pie in the sky numbers that are printed in the media that everybody just eats up. And these numbers are made up by people like me. So it's like, wait a second. It's like, and some startups are better than others, right?
Mm.
But startups are kind of like churning butter, right? You got to churn it for a long time with a lot of patience and diligence. And that's when you make butter, right? People who leave halfway, their valuations don't get anywhere. They're never able to make cream. So the importance of the story is don't just believe the headlines that you might read in the newspaper, because let's just say media is pay to play. Yesterday I was talking to somebody and we were talking about doing something, and then later on they sent me an invoice for $50,000.
Oh,
I'm like, wait a second, I thought this was sort of earned media. Like, no, when this is paid media. I'm like, I'm sorry, honey, I don't pay to play. My content stands on itself, and I don't write those stupid checks because I don't have to.
Yeah. Well, and that's
why go to a prostitute when you can get it for free?
Well, that's quite the analogy. But
sorry,
no, it's
bad
okay.
Analogy.
And I will say that that's something that really burns us as PR and marketing professionals, is these agencies that say, oh, pay me X amount of money and we'll get you in the media. Well, okay, you send out a press release. Yeah, you get some backlinks on, certain pages of sites. It might be an NBC or an ABC affiliate in some small town. And then you can say you were on NBC or ABC, but that's not actually earned media. So we work really hard to make sure that we're putting genuine stories out about products that actually have something. So that's a big red flag.
Forgive me, I wasn't trying to talk your profession. I'm just saying that, I have worked with a lot of people in PR, and frankly, PR people are the nicest people. And I like to work with people when they're actually genuine. My process is very simple. I'm just myself, and I approach them and I tell them, hey, this is who I am. This is what I talk about. And most of them love it. They're like, yeah, we want to talk about you. We want to work with you. And the ones who don't, they don't. It's okay. Not everybody has to love everybody.
But to your point, a lot of people, companies, entrepreneurs fall prey to that paid media scenario because they don't know the difference.
And pay to play. And people can tell when it's pay to play, by the way.
Yes, people can tell 100%. Now, but I have had people who I was talking to as potentially working together, and they said, oh, well, I'm working with this other agency and they got me in this and this. And I'm like, that's not a real publication. Was it the New York Daily or some magazine that's like, I'm like, that's not really a publication, like a real publication. That's, you're paying to have a sponsored post, basically. So it's totally different. Now, that brings me to a question of, in your business, what makes the difference between somebody who's really good at their job and going to be straight shooters, like I can tell you are, with a company that they're valuing? And are there shysters who work in your industry who will go on to not using those three basic, the primary colors, as you mentioned, but are going to use maybe the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th formula to try to, twist or change the story?
No. If they're using the 15th formula, I'm not saying they're wrong. All I'm trying to say is the 15th formula is not a primary color. It's a derivative of those three methods, and it's a derivative. It's not the primary methods. It's a derivative method. And most people, I think they try to do a good job. For example, I said no to a client this morning. It was a litigation client, and they have a court date coming up, which is 2 weeks out. But we've been talking about doing their valuations for the last 8 weeks.
Mhm.
And they finally turned around and they said, oh, yeah, okay, we need this valuation now. I'm like, no, honey, sorry, that doesn't work like this. I was talking to you 8 weeks ago. And that's when I quoted you what I quoted you. You want me to do it now? First thing, I can't do it.
Yeah.
If you want me to do it now, I'm going to have to charge you double. And they said, what? Wait, why would you have to charge you double? Because I have to be very careful. I have to put more people on the project so that I don't screw things up.
Mhm.
And of course, they don't get that. So I'm like, I guess we're not working together.
Yeah.
Sorry, I tried to help you.
Mhm.
But when clients don't pull the trigger and they know they're under
Yeah.
a deadline, especially a court date,
Oh,
sorry, that's not on me. That's on you.
yeah. What is one of the most surprising, I don't know if you feel comfortable mentioning companies or clients or people or just generalizations, but what is one of the most surprising valuations that you did where you maybe got in there and it was completely different than what it looked like when you first, the prima facie, like you got in there and you either it was valued much, you saw, oh, this is worth a lot more or a lot less, or this shouldn't even be going down this path.
You've seen that movie on WeWork? What's it called?
Oh, yes. I've been watching it recently. We
Anne
crashed.
Hathaway.
Yeah, we crashed, I think.
Yeah, we crashed. I was in the room when that debacle happened.
Oh my gosh.
And now I can talk about it because it's public knowledge, but I was there.
Wow.
And I had told the investors when they wanted the $47 billion valuation, and I had mentioned it to them that, well, to my detriment, I said it, me being me, that isn't WeWork just a fancy way of Regis space?
Yes,
And
yes.
they didn't want to hear it. They're like, no, it's a technology company. We're gold. I'm like, okay, I'm just a lowly valuation guy. What do you? Well, 3 months later, that $47 billion went to 12 billion. I was in the room then again too,
Mm.
and I kept my mouth shut because it's not my place to say. It was my place to say 3 months ago.
Yeah, and
But
you did.
hey, what's happened? It's happened. So yeah, shit like that happens all the time.
Wow. So you go through the whole process. You have a proven track record. You're giving them, you're straight shooting and telling them, look, this is the real deal. But at that point, the investors can choose to listen or not listen. So then the onus is on them.
I'm working with a client right now. I mean, fantastic entrepreneur. I mean, her company is doing extremely well. And she thinks her company is worth 10 to 20 billion, 10 to 20 million. And I'm coming up at 2.5 million.
Big difference.
So I'm going to have to tell her, I'm sorry, honey, it's not 10, 20 million. I don't know what to tell you. And she's not going to like the number.
Yeah.
Because in her mind, it's worth 10, 20 million. And once somebody has made up their mind, I'm not trained to change their mind.
Right.
I'm trained to do what I do. So I'm just going to tell her that, sorry, it's not 10, 20 million. It's 2.5 million. Like it or not, that's what you paid me to do.
So this is really, I love hearing this side of things, really, because I've worked with some startups that, okay, they raised money, they're going to launch immediately. And then, oh no, we're going to delay the launch. Then we're going to delay it again. And then as on my side of things, I'm preparing what's the media plan? When are we rolling out the PR strategy? When are we working on social media? When are we working on XYZ? And all of it hinges on when they're going to launch. And then they delay it, and then they delay it, and then they delay it. I lose credibility. They lose credibility. I had one who went through a name change after we'd already started seeding them in the press on really good outlets. They have some celebrity people involved, so they're able to pull some strings and get on Today's Show or Good Morning America or shows like that, and talk about. And I'm like, okay, but then you're going to change the name right after that interview, and then you're going to launch, and then now you're launching a year later. So, and I think part of it is I don't know anything about the side of like the valuation and all of that, or how much they've gotten in investment. But do you see that like very often where once you get in there and talk through the numbers and they really see like how much work it's going to take to launch their product or get the money that's really that appropriate number for their valuation and to launch properly, that is that, I guess, is that a common scenario, or is that just the people that I'm meeting who are trying to start their businesses?
Problem is, Annika, media has really skewed people's expectations.
Mm.
Because 99% of the companies aren't able to raise money, or they don't raise money at crazy valuations. But all you hear and see in the media is they raised 100 million at $1 billion, at 200 million at $50 billion, or whatever crazy numbers. So most entrepreneurs, in their mind, they're thinking that's normal.
Right.
That's the middle, that's expected, that's average. Not average. What you hear is the Brad Pitts of the world, the George Clooney's of the world, right? The Meryl Streeps of the world. Not everybody is Meryl Streep.
Right.
So, there's nothing wrong with being a nice theater actress, or, a nice actor on Broadway, but Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
So what that entrepreneur I'm telling you about, right, where she thinks her company's worth 10, 20 million. Why does she think that? Because she's read all these stupid headlines. She hasn't done the real analysis that I've done.
Yeah.
So all in her mind, she's thinking that, hey, my neighbor's cousin's wife, her company was sold for 10x. So my company is worth at least 15x. That's the calculation they've done in their mind, right?
Yeah. And on my side, I see that where if a client comes in, they immediately want to be in Forbes or Time Magazine or Fortune or a big publication, when I'm like, we're just laying the groundwork. First, we need to make sure, do you even have a bio? Do you have your key messaging? Do you know what your customer personas are when you're reaching out to investors or the media or to potential consumers? We need to start with the groundwork. So it sounds like it's similar in a different way. You have to lay the groundwork. You can't usually go from 0 to 100. Sometimes you can, but
no, you can't.
Typically people have to, you have to do the work and the step up to get to the point where you even get those interviews.
I have a friend, every time I meet him, he's always like, I have a client, he's got $4 billion and he wants to invest somewhere. Do you have a company he can invest his money in? And I say, no. Oh, you know what? I have, a client who wants to invest $100 million in real estate. Do you know anybody? And I'm like, no. And I say no because he wants to go from floor 0 to floor 100 within 40 seconds.
Okay.
And you want to be careful of people like that. And by the way, I always pick up his tab whenever we go for dinner or drinks. So you got clients that, are worth $4 billion and they want to invest with you. I wouldn't be picking up your tab every time.
Yeah.
So that's why I just keep saying no. So yeah, be wary of people who do that, especially who want to come on Time Magazine and all that, right? Because yeah, of course they hired Annika. Annika can get us on Time Magazine. Well, Annika is no good. Dude, it don't work like that. You don't plant a seed and expect it to bear fruit the next day. It takes time. I mean, Time Magazine isn't going to hear you until you're in another publication that's maybe below Time Magazine. Maybe then somebody, so you got to work up to it. But people, all they see is, Elizabeth Holmes. Hey, she was on Fortune and Time Magazines. Why can't I get on Time Magazine? Because I'm legit. Dude, it took her 10 years to get there.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that story, I have had clients. I have one client specifically who's actually in the Bay Area. And she has been really trying to fundraise. She's a Black queer woman founder, the only person in hyperbaric oxygen therapy space, has great case studies, numbers for her brick and mortar. But when she is trying to go out and get investment, she's, I think she has the barriers of Black queer woman, but then also people always look at her and say, well, Elizabeth Holmes, Elizabeth Holmes. So I know on one hand, people think that they're worth a lot more until they get the actual numbers because they see companies like that. But on the other hand, things like that, when it finally crashes, are making it harder sometimes for people to maybe reach the right investor. Maybe they need to, look for different types of investors. I don't know, but
Elizabeth Holmes was a scapegoat. Yeah, I mean, she's no saint. Let me say that too, right? Yeah, she did a lot of things that were unethical. She shouldn't have done that, but that was every entrepreneur, male, female. Let's forget about the sex at this point.
Yeah,
their job is to dream.
Yeah.
If they don't, they shouldn't be doing that job. The problem occurs when it stops being a dream to a hallucination. That I got to keep saying this lie because I have been saying this lie. The problem is the investors, the people who invested in Elizabeth Holmes, they wanted to believe in the hallucination because it was to their benefit. They just made her a scapegoat. They all were happy writing checks until she was making money. It was almost like a Ponzi scheme.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, you're making money? Oh, I'll give you more money. Oh, you raise more money. I'm going to give you more money. Wait a second. You stop raising money? You're a thief.
Wow.
So she is no saint, but she was a scapegoat because these guys aren't going to admit that, yeah, we were greedy and stupid to give her money. We didn't really do our diligence. We just got impressed with her, because she was Steve Jobs-ish and she was playing it too. I mean, she was not doing anything different than Steve Jobs, except, the music stopped. That's all. They just made her into a scapegoat. That's all.
Okay. Now I feel like we're really getting into the good stuff. I'm like, can I have you on to talk about all of the different companies and like really pull back the curtain, peel the onion? It's really fascinating to hear.
Yeah, why do you think they made a movie on her? The people who probably, funded that movie are the people who funded her because they wanted to say, hey, I had nothing to do with this. Wow. It was her.
Interesting. Yeah, people don't really think about it from that angle. That's not what, again, the media portrays.
Hey, media is like salt. In the right amount, it can really make a dish blossom. In the wrong amount, it can really fuck things up.
Yeah. Well, so what are things that continue to inspire and motivate you in this work? I mean, I know you said, okay, I was good at this. This was my job right out of college, and you kept on this path.
Now I'm at a point I don't have to hide behind anything. I just say it like it is, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And when I don't know something, I'm also at a point where I say, hey, I don't know. I shouldn't be talking about it. For the last few years, I've been creating a YouTube channel where I'm educating people on valuations, and it's gotten pretty good traction. And my next thing is I want to have an unscripted show on National Geographic around valuations. So, and I share that with you because anybody listening to this would listen to me asking for this. Yeah. So I'm looking for a production company where I can value. So I want to have a show, unscripted show, where I am valuing things like the Panama Canal, the Eiffel Tower, the Great Wall of China, because people want to know what these assets are worth. And I am one valuation person, frankly, in the world who has appraised unique or weird assets like this. So think of this show as Modern Marvels, except it has an economic aspect to it, not just engineering. So,
well, I hate to tell you this, but my partner is a documentary filmmaker. and has some projects that
Well,
are being
why are
looked
you hating
at by,
on this? This is a
because
good
I'm
thing.
like, because it's so funny when I do these interviews, and I know this will make it into the interview. I don't like to do a lot of editing. I like people to really hear everything.
That's why I said it.
Yeah, well, and that's why I'm saying this, is that I feel like every time I do an interview with somebody for the podcast, that message is exactly what I need to hear or they need to hear at that exact moment in time. So you sharing this on the podcast, and I'm like, oh, I actually know people I can put you in touch with, to see, to go through this idea, because they have projects that are being looked at Netflix and at other places.
So show your partner my
Mhm.
YouTube channel
I will.
and see if they like my work. And I think there is a way we can make that into a long form show, and work with a production company and sell it to Nat Geo, Discovery, or History Channel, or A&E, because I think there's a market for this. People, we've all seen all kinds of show around wonders of the world, right?
Yeah.
Machu Picchu, the Taj Mahal, how it was made, the story behind Taj Mahal, the ancient aliens and all that crap.
Yep.
Nobody has ever dissected those assets
Wow.
from an economic perspective.
Mhm.
What will it cost to build it today?
Mhm.
Could you sell it? Could you buy it? How much money can you make off of it? Nobody has done that. I am somebody who can do that.
Wow. That's a very unique perspective and value add. 100%. What is one of the most surprising experiences that you had in working with a company?
Not surprised. I mean, things don't, surprise you nowadays. It's just that,
No.
people just have fallacies of grandeur, right? Like that lady I'm talking about, her company is worth 2.5. And like, somebody would come to me and say, this was recent. This was funny too. Somebody came to me recently and they said they want me to value their company. I said, great, happy to do it. What's your revenue? And that's usually my, few of the questions. What's your revenue? $20,000. Okay, all right, that's all right. How much money have you raised? $200,000. Okay. Why do you need a valuation? We're looking to raise more money. Okay. What do you think your company is worth? About 3 million.
Oh.
And I'm
Wow.
like, wait, how did you get from 20,000 in revenue and 200,000 in capital raised to $3 million? Oh, we just spent like $150,000 on our branding and our website and our image and, PR. And, we've created a brand. I'm like, you created a brand and your revenue is $20,000? You haven't created a brand, anything.
Yeah.
Just because you spend $150,000 doesn't mean you actually even are worth $150,000.
No.
It doesn't work like that. So
Yeah.
I just chuckle when I get this.
Yeah. Well, and that was actually my next question is, what are some things that founders need to do to get ready for evaluation?
I mean, just, there's no being ready for evaluation, right? I mean, frankly, Annika, nobody wakes up one morning and says, I'm going to call my appraiser Bharat today. You don't go to a chiropractor because you feel like seeing him.
Right.
You go to a chiropractor because you have a problem, or, you're not feeling comfortable, or there's something that's bothering you, or there's a need. Same with me. You don't go to a vet because I want to take Tommy to the vet today. Tommy probably needs his shot or her shot, or there's a problem, or he needs a bath or something. Same thing with me. I get those phone calls because there is a need. They're looking to raise capital, or they need to file taxes, or they need to put money down on their books, or they're doing a transaction or something. That's when I get those phone calls. So whenever somebody who needs evaluation, they need to have it very clear in the head why they need evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other advice that you'd like to leave with people who are listening that are thinking about starting something, or they're mid flow?
Not really. I think your audience must have been tired with me by now.
No, you had some great stories and really solid advice to share.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. And what's the easiest way for people to find you?
Go to our website. There's a contact us button, and send us an email. And if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Great. And in the show notes, I'll include some links to your YouTube and some of the other links that you've shared with me so that
Thanks.
people can really dig in more and get some really good lessons from you on what you're looking for. So I really appreciate your time today. I know it's funny because we never know exactly where we're going to go when I do these because I want to dig into it. So I loved hearing your stories, and I'm sure you have a lot more to share. You should maybe write a book too, beyond
I have been offered to
everything
write a
else.
book by Wiley.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. A book is boring. Who reads anymore? I read, but
Yeah.
people like to watch things. People don't like to do too much effort. People like instant gratification. So I would rather do the unscripted show in Nat Geo.
Yes. I see that loud and clear. I also think this would be a good book that I would listen to on Audible, for instance, when I'm driving to and from the office. So just keep that in your mind too.
Actually, I have a book title in mind, and I have a few chapters ready, but
okay. See, there you go.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to do more work on it.
Yeah, maybe down the road after your successful unscripted show launch.
Yes, maybe. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, Bharat, thank you so much for your time today. This was a really wonderful way to start the morning for me. And I learned a lot, and I know our audience will too.
Thanks for having me.